time today and to get to all of the main points, smoothly transitioning between them, all within 7.5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Fellow Toastmasters, I think today is the anniversary of the day that I decided that I needed to come to Toastmasters, so it's an important day for me. Do any of you remember the day when you could not buy bottled water in a store? In a supermarket? What was there? Maybe distilled water. That's what I remember. And I remember my mother putting it in her iron, and I think I remember my father putting it in the battery in the car. Where did we get our water then? I guess we got it from the tap, in our kitchen, at home. Or if we were out in public, perhaps we got it from a water fountain. And indeed, they were out there. I remember them. They were in buildings, they were in parks, they were in playgrounds, schoolyards. They were kind of like mailboxes and payphones. They were scattered throughout the community just enough so that you could find one when you needed one. Nowadays, we have bottled water brought to us in sealed, private little containers that we can carry around with us. Kind of like sippy cups. And indeed, we carry them around with us. They're healthy for us, and they're pure. We've become big toddlers, haven't we? Where did all this begin? When did it all begin? I remember in the late 70s, America discovered Perrier water. Brought to us in a nice green glass bottle, full of minerals, full of flavor, and from France. You could order it in a restaurant or a bar, and you didn't have to have an alcoholic drink for lunch. Well, corporate America wasn't going to roll over and die. They came up, at least in California, with Calistoga water to compete with Perrier water. It wasn't long before we were having arguments about which water was better, which had more flavor. Then, in 1989, the PETE, paraethylene terephthalate, plastic container was invented. It's got soft plastic plus bisphenol A, which makes it hard. Now we could have our drinks out of plastic bottles instead of glass bottles. No deposit, no responsibility. We could throw them away where we wanted. Gandhi said, "There is enough water in the world for human need, but not enough for human greed." Enter Coke, Pepsi, and Nestle. The leading manufacturers, or do they really manufacture it? I don't know. The leading producers of bottled water in America today, as Americans began to drink more bottled water, of course they began to drink less soft drinks, fewer soft drinks. This has not gone without cost for us. There is a lot of thinking and research today about plastic and what it does to us. 90% of you out there have bisphenol A in your urine right now. It accumulates in our bodies. It accumulates in the environment. The research, there's some argument about the research, but it's ongoing. What about recycling? Only 20% of these containers actually end up being recycled. It's no surprise, only for 50% of Americans have curbside pickup. Where does this stuff end up? It ends up in landfill. It ends up being incinerated a lot. And it also ends up in streams and rivers, which eventually flow into the ocean. Did you know that the ocean is becoming a garbage dump for plastic? In the Pacific, there is 1,000-mile, more than 1,000-mile diameter circulating mass of garbage now. In that mass of garbage, there is basically a plastic soup. Little small particles of plastic swimming around in the water, 40 times more prevalent than plankton. This particular swirling mass of garbage ends up dumping its contents in Southern California. There's a beach in Southern California called Camilo Beach now that has, I think, more plastic particles on it than it does sand. 40% of bottled water is actually filtered tap water. Remember the day when we survived without bottled water? I don't remember anybody dying of dehydration. Perhaps we aren't as thirsty as the experts keep telling us we are, and we don't need 8 of these a day. And perhaps we aren't going to become as unhealthy or as lonely as we fear by simply returning to the use of tap water.